All right, I think we're rolling.
There
What's
we
going
go.
on, everybody? It's Cody. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another live stream. We're going to be talking about a couple different things you need to know about what's going on here in Utah. We're going to be talking about some water issues. We're going to talk about weather. We're going to talk about just a number of different things that are relevant to the Utah landscape right now. These topics, the reason why they came up is one, because I found some really cool articles on them, but also two, because I've got JD here with me, who's my partner down in St. George, one of the top realtors there in St. George. And, we do a lot of business between him and I. And so we feel like we have a pretty good handle on the market and what's going on with the market in real estate. But then also it comes down to what's happening in our own backyard, right? What's happening with restaurants or businesses or water issues or weather, inversion is a big thing up here in Salt Lake. So there's a lot of different things that kind of play into this that we're going to touch on today. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. As always, guys, if you have questions, leave a comment. We'll answer it. We'll kind of give you our point of view. Just before we do jump into this, if anybody wants to comment where you're watching from, I always love seeing that. I've had people in the past who've been watching from South Africa, from the Netherlands, people pretty much all across the world. It's kind of crazy to see, where people are at. So drop a comment down in the box below, and let's jump into it. So if I go over here. And let me screen share. What's up? Two guys from California, huh? Los Angeles for Annabelle, and Bryce is in California as well. All right, so let's see. Can you guys see my screen if I do that?
You have you got a lot of screens happening right now.
Yeah, we've got a lot of screens happening. The way that they do this, the screen share in StreamYard is just kind of weird. Sorry.
I got it on my second monitor, so I can see everybody commenting over there.
Stick with me, guys. Can you see that article, JD?
Let's see. No, drop that article in the chat, would you?
Yeah, what's going on here? Well, I'll share this article, and then JD can pull it up.
There we go.
Let me remove the screen share.
Yep, can't risk water. That's been the hot topic this year.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I see it here.
Yeah. So, man, I don't know why this isn't working. Sorry, guys. It's supposed to be pulling it up here on screen, but I'm not sure why that's not happening.
You had it shared there for a second.
All right, let me just do this. Let me just share my entire screen, and we'll just pull this up here. How about that?
Go. Yep, we can see that.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys. So this is an article that was just released on KSL. It actually came out earlier today, and it's talking a little bit about the water issues in Washington County. So I'm just going to kind of jump through this, and then I want to get JD's take on it from what's in here. So I went through and highlighted some of the key points of this. And it basically says that, first off, one of Utah's and the nation's fastest growing areas is banning non-functional grass. And this includes any new commercial, institutional, or industrial development, and also limits grass at new homes under new ordinances. And it also bars new golf courses unless the developers can provide their own non-potable water source for irrigation and secondary or reused water. So that's I think that's actually a really good thing. What are your thoughts on this, JD?
Yeah, water is a huge concern, especially down here in St. George with the drought that we're going through. And so where we can save water, it's super important, mainly because with the amount of growth that is planned, especially for this area, water is going to be a huge factor in that. To be able to accommodate the growth, we're going to need to be able to have a very water sensitive government in place that can make sure we regulate and continue having the healthy growth that St. George is seeing. So yeah, it's awesome to see that they're putting some of these things into effect to kind of help stop some of the water stuff. The big problem down here is all the golf courses. Like, I'm a big golfer, and I think we have more golf courses in an area more than in an area closer together than any other city in the whole United States. So
Yeah.
many golf courses. It's like I can drive 5 minutes anywhere and hit a golf course.
Yeah, which is great when you're a golfer, but definitely not good for water.
Right.
That makes it difficult. So let me jump back over here. So some other new requirements that are listed is hot water recirculation systems, water sense labeled fixtures, Energy Star appliances, submetering on multi-unit facilities. So this would include like duplexes or apartment buildings or whatever. It sounds like they want to start submetering different water meters for each unit. Restrictions on water features, including misting systems, budgets for golf courses, of course, and then limits on the water that can be used by car wash facilities. It also says that St. George is the county's largest city, and it's also the fastest growing metro area in the nation. But the area has come under fire for its water practices, especially for a county that's experienced drought conditions in 16 of the last 20 years. I actually read somewhere that the whole Western United States is actually like in this cyclical drought that apparently happens like every couple hundred years. And apparently, I could be wrong, but apparently that drought is supposed to end. It started in about 2000 and, is supposed to end somewhere nowish.
I heard the same thing.
Obviously, that's not happening, so I don't know what's going to happen. But
one of the big changes that aren't mentioned in this is whenever you're in the building industry. I'm a general contractor myself, and if you're going to be taking on a new subdivision right now, the city is enforcing desert landscaping or desert sensitive landscaping, especially on the front yards now of a lot of new building communities. So if they have a CCNRs and they want to have the CCNRs approved, there's a lot of new subdivisions right now that are being forced to put in desert landscaping. And actually, there's subdivisions that are being essentially awarded grants to change their grass landscaping, their high water landscaping into desert landscaping as well in St. George right now.
Yeah, that's surprising. From your perspective, why is it more expensive to do desert landscaping? Because I know sod's not cheap.
It depends on what you do with the desert landscaping. If you're putting in like large palms and you're putting in like tropical desert plants, yeah, it's probably going to get more expensive, especially with like nice boulders.
Yeah.
But desert landscaping supposedly is supposed to help with the drought. There is some concerns that they don't necessarily actually help the drought because things kind of the water just doesn't recirculate correctly. It like evaporates off it. It doesn't soak into the ground very good. But yeah, that's where it's at.
So it seems kind of like a double-edged sword. But I mean, that's something that, like, from my perspective, I mean, grass is great, but honestly, most of the time it doesn't get used. At least not that I see. I mean, people go to the parks and stuff, sure, but it's pretty rare that people use it in their house. So I don't know. I'm kind of a big believer in that like, hey, I think everybody could kind of do their part. We live in a desert. Let's just, kind of make that a requirement for these new houses because it's not getting any better. The only fix to this problem is to just, make these changes rather than just wait it out and keep allowing the same thing over and over.
Right. I agree. I think the changes are good. And honestly, I kind of like desert landscaping. I have grass in the backyard. I got dogs. So,
yeah,
I mean, grass in the backyard is always great. And desert landscaping in the front.
Yeah.
Know. Or if you're front yard people, then do grass in the front yard and desert in the back.
Yeah, most people would have turned into weeds. But yeah, I hear you, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about this. So this is something that we've been experiencing a lot lately. And it's talking about Utah weather. So this article is actually from a couple weeks ago, but I just went back and found it. And it basically says that all of northern Utah is getting a ton of wind. And this is something I've had a ton of people asking me about, saying, hey, why is it so windy? It's been really bad. And it's definitely not normal. It's something that, is has definitely been worse this year. So a couple points on this. This is just confirming it has in fact been abnormally windy in the Salt Lake Valley, according to the National Weather Service. By some metrics, it's been one of the windiest springs and summers the Wasatch Front has seen. As of Friday, there have been 49 days where the weather station by the airport recorded a 5-second gust of over 35 miles per hour. That's the most of any year since 1998. So I guess that's how they kind of figure that stuff out. A lot of people are concerned about this because of the Great Salt Lake, because of the lake bed that it's being exposed by the Great Salt Lake disappearing. That's causing it's just drying out. And so as that wind comes through, it picks up the dust. And apparently there's also some cancer causing issues or chemicals in that dust. And so it gets kind of blown around the valley, and people are really concerned about that. So the wind definitely doesn't help. The Great Salt Lake is another topic that we're going to talk about here in just a second. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with that. I've got a pretty strong opinion on that, just because it sounds like a great idea. And, I'm a bit biased, so I think my ideas are amazing. But, we'll talk about that here in just a second. I want to just jump in, answer a couple questions here, and then we'll kind of continue on with that. I see some comments here. Let's see. Alex out of Orange, California. I'm guessing that's Orange County. Andrea left California 4 months ago and moved here. Where'd you move to, Andrea? Let us know. Bryce, you've got some questions about renting in West Salt Lake and what's the minimum wage looking like. You also mentioned that you're hearing some places, for example, Walmart and Target are starting out at $20 an hour, and was wondering if it's true. I haven't seen it that high. I do know that, a lot of places like fast food places, kind of these more like entry-level jobs are paying anywhere from like $14 to $16 an hour, which is pretty crazy. And, but yeah, it's definitely going up. So I don't know that Walmart and Target are at 20 an hour. That seems pretty high, but I could be wrong. I haven't looked into that. JD, what are you seeing in your area?
Yeah. Honestly, we're still seeing a lot of like $14 an hour, $13 an hour places. However, I don't know if it's the same up there, but we have a ton of warehouse jobs here in St. George. Like that seems to be like a lot of time you talk to somebody, they work in some type of warehouse or some big, larger facilities. Orville's one of them here, and they start their people at like $22 an hour. So I definitely know you can find $20 an hour fairly easy in St. George, with minimal education requirement, especially in those warehouse jobs. That's easy to find. I don't think Walmart's any higher than that. I think Walmart's probably 14 or $13 an hour. Walmart right now, that's probably where you're going to start there.
Yeah.
I saw a sign the other day that Arby's was hiring for like $17.50 an hour, which if I was in high school then, I would have been like, that's awesome. Because out of high school, I was making like $8, $7.50 if I was lucky. So
yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's tough because I look at it and it's like, yeah, okay, inflation's real. I mean, gas is all-time high, food is, energy, all this stuff is at all-time highs. And, but like going back, it's like, yeah, I think when I got out of in high school, when I was working, I think I started at like $7.50 an hour. I mean, it was like literally minimum wage, and that's all I made for a couple of years. And, so to think that people are earning, almost 2.5 times that is pretty crazy.
I started, $7.25 an hour at Hot Topic. That was my first real job.
Nice. That's awesome, dude. All right, let me go ahead and jump into this other article. We're going to talk a little bit about the Great Salt Lake. Again, kind of just comparing or continuing on with the water topic, as well as weather and everything else. Also, guys, if you do me a favor, it'd mean a lot to me and to JD, of course. Share this live stream. If you're watching here locally, or you're from somewhere else, and maybe you've got a wife, a brother, a mom, somebody who's also interested in this type of stuff, share this stream with them. That'd be really awesome. We'd really appreciate it. Help us get in front of a couple more eyeballs. So this is the next article I want to talk about. So we've actually got 2 articles here regarding the Great Salt Lake. So again, I'll just kind of jump through these. This is talking about the Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson, who's worried that the largest saline lake in the Western Hemisphere is a $32 billion problem waiting to happen, and it's going to affect all Utah residents. The lake has exposed over 1,000 square miles of lake bed as it's dwindling, dropping to its historic low in July. That leads to toxic dust whipped up by the winds, exposing Wasatch Front residents to harmful pollution. So obviously, this is something that I just mentioned a minute ago, and nobody wants to be breathing toxic dust. The drying, this is talking about a comparable lake. The drying Owens Lake in California is the nation's flashpoint for PM10 pollution, the kind that gets in your lungs and compromises public health. Their officials have spent $2.5 billion to mitigate the dust, deploying a variety of creative methods. And that's where he comes up with his number at 32 billion, because apparently it's about 10 times the size. So that kind of wraps up the important points of the article here. Basically says, hey, we've got a big problem here and we're going to need to spend some money to fix it. This article here was from just a couple days ago, and it's basically saying that they've put aside some money, but obviously nowhere close to what is needed, at least from what this House Speaker said. But it basically says, here's what the statement says. So this is from the U.S. Senate. The rest of the country is now understanding the widespread repercussions of a diminished Great Salt Lake. They basically proposed this new act, the Great Salt Lake Recovery Act, and it's going to authorize the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to carry out a program to monitor and assess the water availability and conditions of saline lakes in the Great Basin, including the Great Salt Lake, to help inform management and conservation activities for these ecosystems. It also directs a feasibility study to address drought conditions in the Great Salt Lake, which may include an identification of any potential technologies, including pipelines, coastal desalination plants, and canal reinforcement. So I'll kind of just start off with my thoughts on that. It's obviously not a good thing to see that this is happening. I don't know, they're spending, I think that in the article, it said they were spending like $40 million to set aside for all of these, for this study and for the report, and to kind of provide some mitigation and stuff. And I don't know, to me, that kind of seems like a waste of money, to just spend $40 million to do some reports and surveys and get some information like that.
Yeah, we need some action for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they should be spending $1 million on that, hire a couple smart people, figure out what to do, and let's put a plan in place and just get it done. I mean, yeah, the taxpayer is probably going to end up paying for it, but that's just life, because everybody in the Western U.S. is going to be affected by that if it continues to dwindle. Because what happens is you get a lot of clouds that come in over the west part of Utah. They pick up a lot of that water in the Great Salt Lake and then dump it in the Wasatch Mountains. And that's why we have such amazing snow in the Wasatch Mountains. And then when that water melts, well, lo and behold, it flows down all the way to southern Utah and then down into, Arizona or Nevada or California. It flows to these other places, right? So it all starts with the Great Salt Lake. I mentioned earlier, I felt like the easiest idea, somebody explained this to me and I just thought, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know why we're not doing that. And they basically said to me, hey, why don't we just build a pipeline, right? You can build oil pipelines or whatever. I mean, they built them all across the country, all across Canada and whatnot. Let's just build one from the Pacific Ocean, run it through California, the northern part of Nevada, into the Great Salt Lake, start pumping it, millions of gallons of water, and let's fill that thing back up. Yeah, it's going to cost money to build it, but you're pulling it straight from the ocean. You don't have to desalinate it. I don't know. Sounds like a great solution to me. Sure, it's going to take some money and there's going to be a pipeline, which is, an eyesore, but I think it's better than the alternative.
If they do that, let's also build like an actual functioning, working train, like speed train, like bullet train to the coast. Could we do that at the same time?
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
On top of the pipeline.
Yeah. Just make it happen. That would be awesome. That's something that we really need. That I feel like our friends over in the UK do really well, is all their train tracks and traveling on train. Like, it would make life so much better just having like a straight shot,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'll give you some alternative options. I mean, I'm sure somebody could figure out to make it electric. It'd give you some alternative options to, fossil fuels and stuff. And so it'd be better for the environment and give you an alternative to flying. So that's pretty cool.
Right.
So, let's jump into some questions here. If anybody's got questions on Great Salt Lake, weather, St. George, the market, real estate. I've got one last thing that I'm going to pull up here in just a second. Andrea, so you're in Daybreak. Are you renting there, I presume? Sounds like you just moved here a couple months ago. Alex, you've got questions about buying a rental. Man, where to start? So I'm a real estate investor myself. JD is also. He invests mostly in St. George, as far as I know. I don't know if he invests anywhere else. All my stuff is in Salt Lake. I do have one property in Vernal. That's another story for another day. Alex, I mean, recommendations for buying a rental. Here's the short version. It's really tough to find anything that's going to make sense as a rental property right now. with interest rates having gone up and prices being at all-time high, and then also rents not really reflecting, not being high enough to really, cash flow on a property. I mean, the last couple deals I've underwritten for investors, even with 25% down, you're still negative cash flow. I mean, by the time you factor in 5% for repairs, which is pretty low, you're probably going to be closer to like 10%. But like 5% for repairs, and then, let's say 8% for property management or something. I mean, you're negative cash flow. So it's like, even without those things, with 25% down, you're negative cash flow. So, really what I'm getting at is, man, it's really tough. Honestly, I would say if you're an investor, unless you're just looking to place some money, real quick, just be patient. We'll see where the market goes over the next couple months. Prices may come down, rates may go up, rates may come down. I mean, nobody really knows what's happening. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but just be patient, look for the right deal, find something that you're going to hold on to for the long term. I think that's the other big thing, is find an area and a property that you're going to, be able to hold on to for, at least 3 to 5 years. And I think if you hold on that long, you'll come out ahead. So as far as recommending an area, I mean, it goes back to the same things, right? Find an area that's in high demand, great location, good schools, low crime, kind of all that stuff. Something kind of middle of the pack is generally the rental route that I would go if you're looking at like single family. But, just something in a decent kind of middle class, B class neighborhood is what I'd go for. What do you think, JD?
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. I'd also make sure that if you're not a real estate professional, that you actually make a relationship with one. Your full disclosure, like, hey, I'm a ways out, but I would like you to send me stuff in this area. And if you're looking to get into real estate investing, right now it's tough. However, if you make the right connections and you meet the right people and you're in the right place at the right time, deals will fall in your lap. Good example of that is the other day, had a guy call me out of the blue, saw me on Google. He called me, goes, I need to sell my house and I'd like cash for it. And I already know what I want out of it. And I said, okay, let me come over and see it. It was a dump. It needed to be like completely gutted. It was disgusting. It's full of trash. He told me what he wanted out of it. It was worth double that. And I told him it's worth, you're actually worth double that, and honest and straightforward with it. And
yeah,
he's like, I don't care. I got to go. I'm out of here. I want it sold. I just want to not think about it. Would you take it as is, cash? And I said, all day long. Yeah, I'll take it as cash. Stuff like that happens to real estate professionals, but that could also happen to you if you're in the right place in the right time, talking with the right people. So make sure you're networking with other investors. Make sure that, like I said, you're talking to real estate professionals, that you're making those relationships and you're just staying in front of them, and you're open and honest about what you're looking for and what your time frame is. That's ultimately going to be the way to make it happen. And if you're ready and you have the funds and you can make the move when it comes across your doorstep, then that's even better. So be prepared, work with a good lender, have your funds straight, and like be ready to jump on something. It'll happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that I see with a lot of investors, especially like first-time investors, is they're looking to purchase something, but when a good deal comes along, they're not ready to pull the trigger. And as a real estate agent, that's kind of frustrating for me. I mean, obviously, because I get paid off of that, but it's it's like, it's so hard to find a good deal that when you do find a good deal and I put it in front of you, you got to be ready to pull the trigger on it. So make sure your money's lined up, make sure you have a plan, make sure you know how to underwrite the numbers, in a general sense, to just get at least, somewhat close to what's going on, to see if the numbers make sense. So that's what I would kind of recommend there. Hey, we got Ellie from Fremont. I think we just only have people from California watching the show, which is cool.
Hey, listen, that's my main market right now. St. George is a hot spot for you Californians, and I love working with you. So keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say probably at least 50% of the people I've helped from California, and then the other 50% are from all over the world. So California is definitely like the majority. So question here about South Jordan or Draper. I'll just touch on this real quick, and then I want to touch on some market stats, and then we'll kind of wrap up with Q&A. So South Jordan and Draper are going to be very similar. South Jordan is a newer area. slightly. Most of the homes in Draper are going to be built like in the 90s or early 2000s. South Jordan will be kind of, I'd say the last 20 years. So kind of starting in the early 2000s. That doesn't mean you can't find older houses in both of those areas, but that's kind of just the general, right? That's going to be 70% of it or something. So, that's something that that it's worth considering. I think Draper is also going to be a little bit more expensive. It's going to be a little bit more mature. You're going to have a little bit more, bigger neighborhood, bigger trees. You're going to have, sorry, camera reset. You're going to have bigger trees, more established streets, not as many building lots going on. It's just kind of a more mature area where South Jordan is still relatively new. So those are kind of the differences there. I mean, house prices, depending on what you're looking at. Draper is probably a little bit more expensive. Schools are great in both areas. So, not much to say beyond that, unless you have a specific question. 4 strong and growing. Just moved from New York, renting in North Salt Lake now. That sounds awesome, man. North Salt Lake is a great spot to be. I think North Salt Lake could actually be one of the most underrated areas over the next, 5 to 10 years or so. I think North Salt Lake is going to see a lot of growth. I think Rose Park will see a lot of growth just because of the proximity to downtown. So I'd be curious to see if you're going to be staying there or if you're looking to purchase somewhere else. All right.
I like that Rose Park area. Last time I was up there, I went up to that Rose Park. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a nice area. I mean, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, it was pretty run down, but it's definitely gotten better. So let me see. Can you guys see my screen again? Can I do that? Let me try that. You see my screen, JD?
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
All right, right on.
It's gone now. It disappeared.
Oh, geez. I don't know why that doesn't work.
I can see that now. You just got to click out of that. Let's see. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, that's what I thought I was doing earlier. So these are the latest market stats for the Wasatch Front MLS. So this is going to be a little bit different than what JD is seeing in St. George, but I'm sure kind of the general trends are probably pretty close, I would imagine, for what's going on. So I actually made a video, just released it yesterday, talking about these market stats, but I'll kind of just give a quick summary here. Show you what's going on. So this first column right here is going to be the number of sales that we've had per month, right? So in July of 2022, we saw 3,075 sales, which was down from June where we were at 4,075. So we had 1,000 less sales, and comparing, back to last year, yes, it usually does drop going from June to July, just because a lot of people are traveling. We've got the 4th of July here in Utah. We have a state holiday on the 24th of July. So people are like traveling, with the kids, summer break, all that stuff, right? So sales do usually drop, but, compared to last year at 4,661 to today, or, the last month at 3,075, that's a pretty big drop. This column, these two columns right here are going to be the median listing price and the median sales price. So we actually saw median listing price come down just slightly, but the median sales price actually dropped pretty substantially from where it was at all-time highs. And again, this is for all home types, right? This is condos, townhomes, single-family homes, your entry-level stuff, all the way up to your $5 million mansion. So this is kind of just on a median basis. But we did see prices come down from 540, where they were at all-time highs, down to about 505 as of July. And so far, the data in August, you can't really take this at face value, if you will, because we're still, we're only 2 days into the month. So, it's not a complete data set, but seeing that, the median sales price as of right now is only 480 is pretty surprising. So this is the listing percentage, 98%. This means that homes are selling on average for 98% of what they're listed for, or at least originally listed for. So price drop, if you're at 500 and you price drop to 480, that automatically takes it off, even if you get an offer at 460, right? That'd bring it down, what's that, close to 10%. And then the last thing I want to mention is days on market. So this last column here, we're seeing days on market climb. In July of last year, we were at 6 days on market, pretty much all of summer and spring last year. We were in the single digits. Now we're climbing back up. As of August so far, the last couple of days, we're sitting at 20 days on market. And I think that number is going to continue to climb. But the thing to keep in mind here is that if we actually open up this data set to 2019, that's actually not surprising, right? There's going to be two things that I want to mention here, if this will load. Days on market is typically somewhere between like 15 and 30 in Utah. If you look back at 2019, 2018, 17, 16, if you go back all the years, you'll see that days on market during the summer months are going to be like mid-teens, and then it kind of climbs up, even here in November, December of 2019, we're at 33 to 36 days on market. So, this is totally normal for us to see this. I think we're returning to that stabilized market, not necessarily something to be concerned about. And also the fact that homes are selling for less than they're listed for is also pretty common. If you look back here at this this data set right here, you can see that it was 98%, 99, 97, 98. So that's pretty common in a normal market to purchase a home for less than what it's listed for. It's only been the last couple of years that, I don't know about the average home buyer or home seller, how they've seen it, but as real estate agents, it's just been like crazy. We're seeing these huge numbers like 104%, 103. I was seeing homes sell for 8 to 10% above listing price just a couple months ago. So to see that, yeah. So it's pretty crazy to see that change. But the big thing to, of course, keep an eye on, is going to be, sales prices. So you're going to see headlines. If you haven't already, you're going to start seeing headlines, sales drop to all-time lows. Sales prices are coming down. You're going to see kind of all these, fire headlines, I guess, where people are just kind of saying, hey, the world's burning, market's coming down. But in my opinion, it's just kind of stabilizing. What do you think, JD?
Yeah, I would fully say we are going back to a more normal market, and that can be a little shocking because the last 3 years we've all been running around like we're lit on fire, and like it's been wild. Like the last 3 years is something that is just not sustainable in a normal real estate market. So the best analogy that I can give you right now is if you were to pouring a drink, right? Beer, soda, whatever it is, and you get the fizz on the top. What's happening is we're just scraping the top off right now of what should have been a normal market. Honestly, a per year gain, I think economists say for a real estate market should be like around a healthy 4 to 6% per year. My market saw a 26.4% gain from May to May. So May of 2021 to May of 2022, which is not sustainable. Obviously, it was driven off demand, driven off lack of inventory, driven off of builders not able to give a product in a timely manner. So I'm actually, the market's shifting, and it's fully shifting back into a more buyer-oriented market. But if you're a seller, you still have equity, more equity than you should have had in a normal market. So that's kind of my opinion on it. One of the questions in the chat is, would you recommend to buy now? And I've had this conversation a bunch this week. And right now, more than ever, I think there is a benefit of buying because, one, you have more options to choose from than you did even just 3 months ago. 2, interest rates this week are actually down. In fact, we just locked one of our clients at 4.35% with just a small buy down, a small concession from the seller. And 3, sellers are a little bit easier to work with, and you probably can avoid a lot of multiple offer situations that can really honestly be toxic and unfun in a real estate purchase. So right now, I think you're in a sweet spot. It may not be the case in the next couple of months if they raise interest rates. And if that happens, and interest rates rise, you may not be in the same spot you're going to be in today. But look at the payment. If it makes sense to you, you need to buy something, you feel like it makes sense for your family, then I would recommend you buy for sure.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've been telling my clients is like, look, I don't want to be the typical cliche realtor that says, oh yeah, it's always a great time to buy. It's always a great time to sell, like whatever. I just don't think that's not how I roll. It's not how I do business. So, right. The thing that I've been coming back to is like 2 things. If it makes sense for your situation, then yes, you should probably buy. If it doesn't make sense for your situation, then maybe just rent. Maybe you're moving in from out of state. You're like, hey, I might only be here 6 months, and I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. Well, then just rent. I don't think that the risk of buying something in that situation is not, it's too high, right? So it makes more sense for you to rent in that situation. And I mean, I'll just tell people straight up when they reach out, you know, like, hey, this is your situation. You might want to look at renting, or you might want to look at buying in this area. So that's kind of one thing, is it totally depends on your situation and what your long-term plan is. The thing that I also think is important is, right now, if you're buying a home, the monthly payment makes sense for you. The house makes sense for you. As long as you're planning to hold it for the long term, let's say 3 years plus, you're going to come out okay. You know, really, Utah, I've done tons of videos on these. Some of them haven't released yet, but I've been doing a ton of videos on these different surveys and articles and reports and studies that are coming out saying, hey, Utah is actually one of the most stable housing markets out there right now. And they're expecting the population to continue to grow. There's a housing shortage. There's all these things pointing to, at the end of the day, real estate prices going up. That's going to happen. So if you buy something and it makes sense, there's a good chance you could refinance, you know, in a year or two when rates come back down. At least I'm saying that because that's my opinion. I think within at least 1 to 3 years, rates will come back down. I think, you know, to kind of the low 4% range. You know, I wish I had a crystal ball to say for sure, but that's kind of just my gut feeling, you know, from where interest rates tend to trend, you know, when inflation's not out of control. So those are kind of the two things that I think. Hey, it depends on your situation. If you're a buyer, depends. If you're a seller, again, depends on that too. So another question here, what area would be good for first-time home buyers with a budget around 350 with 60 to 70 to put down? So with 350 in Salt Lake, or just kind of the Wasatch Front, there's going to be not a ton of options. If you're looking at condos or townhomes, you'll be able to find those in just about any city. I'd probably go to like South Jordan or West Jordan, possibly like Mid-Bell or Murray, to try and find a place there. I think you'd probably find a pretty decent place with low crime, good schools, but you are probably going to be looking at condos and townhomes at that 350 price point. Rent is crazy high. If I pay $2K rent, I could also buy. Yeah, you know, you just got to run the numbers. Even if you end up paying a little bit more to purchase the home, it might still be worth it. Even if you could rent a comparable home for less money. That is something that I see a lot. I see a lot of people who, you know, say, oh yeah, it's so much cheaper to rent. And yeah, right now it probably is. It's probably quite a bit cheaper to actually rent, but that might not be the best thing for your situation. You don't get the tax write-offs. You don't get to pay down the loan. You're kind of throwing away that money every month. You don't get the stability that comes when you own your own home, right? Where you can have, you can stay as long as you want. You're not going to have a landlord that's going to sell the property or kick you out or raise rent every year. So there's a lot of benefits to buying, but again, you know, it just depends on if it's right for you. So
I agree.
We're gonna roll for a couple more minutes. If anybody has any last minute questions, go ahead, drop it in the comment box. If you're moving to Utah, reach out to me. My email is in the description. If you're moving to northern Utah, you'll reach out to me. We'll set you up on a home search. We'll take you out shopping, or we'll just kind of give you advice on your situation. If you're moving to St. George, I'll make that connection with JD. You can have a discussion with him, figure out if Santa Clara or Washington or Ivins or Hurricane or wherever it might be is the right fit for you.
You know you're from St. George if you say it's Hurricane, not Hurricane.
Or at least from Utah.
Or at least from Utah, for sure. What did you say your active inventory is up there right now? Like, what have you seen it scale to in the last 3 months?
Dude, that's a really good question. Let me pull this up. I've actually been tracking it. Unfortunately, the Wasatch Front doesn't give us an easy way to really view this, which is kind of frustrating, but they do, but it's not very friendly to look at. So let me pull this up here. Share screen. Let's see if we can figure this out, man. I gotta practice with this. All right, here we go. So I've been tracking this over the last month, give or take. This is the number of listings that we've had. So this is all listings, again, condos, townhomes, single family, everything, trailer homes, whatever. So in May, I don't have this data here on the tracker, but in May, we were sitting at the beginning of May, we were at 2,500. By the end of May, we were at 5,000. So it doubled. From June 1st to July 5th, we went to 8,000. And then through the month of July into today, we've actually climbed all the way to 9,449. So inventory is up almost 4x since May 1st, which is pretty crazy. The number of this should say under contract and backup. So the number of properties that are under contract and backup is here. It's floating right around 6,700 to 7,000. So that number hasn't really changed all that much. The sold data is a little bit off because I missed a couple days, so it's not a great representation. But the other thing I want to point out here is the multi-unit. So multi-unit properties, we've seen that climb a little bit. We're at 158 here in July. I mean, we hit it. Right now we're hovering around 170 to 180. The number of contracts is roughly the same. The other thing that I thought was interesting was agent count. So this is something I just started tracking recently. The number of agents there are in the market. So we just renewed as real estate agents. You have to renew your license every year. And that just happened in July, at least for the Salt Lake Board of Realtors, to kind of renew your membership with them. And we saw the number of realtors drop by about 400 in just the last couple of days. So pretty crazy there. But still, 17,900 agents. It's crazy.
Your guys' market's way bigger than ours. I mean, our active for July, our number of active listings hit 1,400, which in February and February is 535. So we almost tripled.
Yeah.
Almost tripled where we're at.
Washington County has 170,000 people, give or take.
I think I want to say it just hit 100,000, or maybe I'm off. I thought it was lower than that.
I thought I saw somewhere that Washington County was 180, but then St. George Metro was 100. Because that's not.
Yeah, you're right. We're 170,000 right now. The St. George area itself hit 100. Yeah. The metro area.
I mean, that makes sense because Salt Lake County is about 1.2 million. By the time you add in Utah County, Davis, Weber, Tooele, Park City, Summit and Wasatch counties, I mean, we've got to be at least 2.2 to 2.5 million, in our MLS. So we're over 10 times the size amount of people, so theoretically our listing should be 10x what you guys have.
Right. It's been interesting to see it though. We're finally able to have a pool of homes to send to people and be like, hey, all these check your box. Let's go show houses for half the day now. It's no longer just oh, you want to see that one? Let's go right now. Yeah. I will bring a printer with me. I'll print it in their house. We'll steal their Wi-Fi. And we'll leave a hard copy at their house. Yeah. And then we'll also email them a copy. We don't have to do that anymore. So that's nice.
It's been crazy, man. It's good to see the shift. I mean, I've had buyers that are negotiating deals, and it's so nice because I probably work with 80% buyers, and it's so nice to be able to negotiate for them and get them a good price. It's no longer just hey, take it or leave it. Right now, you can at least, the last deal that I was working on, we got a $7,000 credit from the seller. We got $3,000 off the price, and we just did an inspection, and we're expecting to be able to negotiate about another $5,000. So, small numbers for some home prices, but this is a $350,000 house.
Right.
So
that's awesome, though. I mean,
it's nice to
see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Schwindy, if you're still here, that would be something I'd also recommend. You also were asking about areas. You can find single family homes in that 350 range. You would be looking at Ogden or Clinton, Roy, some of those northern cities. So you could find that there. That was kind of something I just thought of because that's where that house was at. So guys, we're going to wrap it up there. We've gone 45 minutes here. We'll wrap it up. If you have questions for us, let us know. We'll be back here in the future. Of course, you can always send me an email and we'll answer. Sorry for the alarm. We'll answer any questions that you might have about your individual situation. Like I said, I'm here in Salt Lake at the moment, and JD's holding down the fort in St. George. So let us know what we can do for you. Reach out anytime. And with that said, guys, we'll catch you in the next one.